Our project is on the 1927 Mississippi River flooding.
The 1927 Mississippi River flood was mainly driven by excessive precipitation. There was persistent weather patterns where the warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico collided multiple times with cooler air from the north, which led to heavy rainfall. The Ohio and Mississippi River valleys received record-breaking rainfall. For instance, Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, Illinois, and Kentucky saw almost 2 feet of rain in just a couple of months. Since the Mississippi River drains from such a big area, the sustained rainfall caused runoff to accumulate in the levee system over time. The 1927 flood was way worse than typical seasonal flooding because of all of the persistent intense storms that had occurred throughout the year. Other factors that made the flooding worse was how saturated the soil was, the levee system failure, and snowmelt. Unlike other hurricanes and flooding, the 1927 Mississippi River flood was not affected by the ocean, wind, tides, or sea level.
The flooding began in April 1927 and lasted until August. Human-made levees and drainage systems which made the flood worse by trapping water and causing bigger breaks when they failed. Climate change is expected to increase heavy rainfall and storms and lead to more frequent and severe flooding in the future. Human activities like deforestation, urban development, and river engineering reduces the land's ability to absorb water, which also increases flood size and damage. The flood covered about 27,000 square miles of land and forced about 700,000 people out. Daily life and businesses were severely disrupted because roads, bridges, and railways were destroyed. Losses totaled at about $400 million, which is about $600 billion today. Water supplies became contaminated with sewage and chemicals, which led to outbreaks of typhoid and malaria.
In 1917, Congress passed legislation to fund the building of levees and other infrastructure for the purpose of controlling flooding along the Mississippi River. According to the Calvin Coolidge article, The State of the Union History, the federal and state governments allocated $45 million towards flood control and the construction of levees along the Mississippi River. In 1926, these levees were fully prepared for the effects of the flood. The massive flood that occurred in the spring of 1927 completely destroyed all of the progress done to preserve the river and also left thousands of people homeless. People were stranded for days without food and clean water. The aftermath of the flooding left citizens unhappy with little reimbursements the government was providing for the rebuilding of homes and roads. Coolidge argued that it was necessary and proper for the federal government to provide not only humanitarian relief, but also to rebuild the infrastructure that the floods destroyed. In the end, the government chose to not reimburse the citizens affected for any loss and damage incurred under the natural disaster. However, the rebuilding of levees to make them more durable and stronger relieved tension and stress from the citizens. And here is just an image of the aftermath of the flood and a picture of Calvin Coolidge, who did a lot to help the citizens in this time.